State your name and DOC number for the record.
George M. Porter, 88365.
All right, George, my name is Brendan Kelsey. Along with me is Ms. Wise and Ms. Renata will be your panel. I'll explain the process to you, read some information to the record, have a parole interview, ask you some questions. You can respond. At the end, you can make a statement. We'll take a vote. You understand the process?
Yes, sir.
George Porter, DOC number 88365, fifth class offender. Parole eligibility date 8/1/2021, not eligible for good time. Full term date 6/3/2047, 50-year sentence. Aggravated crime against nature, aggravated rape, attempted second degree murder. Does that sound correct?
Yes, sir.
All right, please answer Ms. Pearl.
Good morning, sir.
Morning.
Call out for the record how long you've been in jail.
23 years, I believe.
23 years. And how old are you today?
69.
You're 69. All right. I'm just not gonna go into your record. I do want you to know that you do have victim opposition. It was a horrible crime.
Yes,
Can we affirm that?
sir.
But tell us a little bit about why you in a wheelchair.
Well, I was working in a cell block and a child cart run across my leg, my feet, and it gangrene. And had to cut it off, my foot off. Then they had to turn around and cut it up a little higher.
Okay. I'm sorry to hear that. I just saw that. I'm sorry to hear that. So what is your release plan? If you were successful today, what would you do?
Well, I was trying to go to work, back to work, because I'm not lazy.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Where would you live? Probation road?
With my first cousin.
First cousin.
Yes, ma'am.
Where is she? He. Where's your first cousin living?
On Josephine Street, New Orleans.
New Orleans. Okay.
Mhm.
She said, is it he or she? I don't know.
It's a she.
Okay. She has told you that she will let you live with her?
Yes.
Like you said, you're gonna try to go back to work, but most likely you're probably trying to apply for SSI. Yeah. Right.
Yes, ma'am.
If you could speak to your victim, what would you say?
Okay, I was sorry. And I hope she could forgive me.
But what is disturbing is that you were convicted of a rape prior to this. There's 2 rapes in your history, right?
Yes, ma'am.
2 assaults on women. Were you able to take the sex offender classes? Were you able to take that?
Not yet. I'm on backlog for it.
Oh, you are? So you just decided to start getting on that?
No, ma'am. I was in it before.
What happened?
The virus and stuff, and it set it back or something. I don't know how it went.
Okay, I understand. But you're willing to take the class now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, good. I'm glad to hear that. That's all I had, Jim.
Ward, do you have any input for us?
Yes. Mr. Porter was afforded the opportunity to take the sex offender class in 2003. He was enrolled, but he dropped the class. July the 2nd of 2003.
All right.
All right, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
All right, Mr. Porter, would you like to make a statement on your behalf?
Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
I would like to apologize to my victim, and I'm sorry that it happened the way it happened.
All right. Yes, sir. All right. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Sound fair to vote, Ms.
Yes,
Wise?
Mr. Porter, today, for me, because he had not completed their sex offender treatment program and the violent nature of the crime and the victim opposition, my vote is to deny today. And I encourage you to, get involved in that program and right back when you're eligible and have a residence plan. Reach out to your family and ask them to send a letter, saying they will give you a place to stay. Best wishes to you, sir.
Ms. Renata?
My vote also is to deny for the same reasons, Mr. Porter, with the same recommendations as Ms. White.
All right, 2 votes to deny. I'm also going to vote to deny for the same reasons as stated. 3 votes to deny. Today, your parole's been denied. Good luck.
I could almost feel bad for him, but then at the same time, I will read through the facts of this case. Thank you, Richard. And yeah, they are brutal. And then to find out that this was his second offense, and he's done nothing to help himself. Now they say you don't want to get hurt in prison because they don't have very good medical care. And in this case, can you imagine you get hurt and the medical care is so poor that they have to start cutting you up? It's so let's go over the facts of the case, because certainly we're not going to get that from a Miss Wise interview, but it could be in this situation that we weren't going to get it from anyone. They already knew that they were going to deny. But also the classic, I'm sorry that it happened. I'm sorry that it happened that way. It's like, yeah, great job apologizing. It's just so funny that people who commit these terrible crimes, that's the best they can come up with. I'm sorry that it happened. All right, so at trial, the victim, ML, testified that early on the day of May 24th, 1997, she was at an acquaintance's house where she smoked possibly 3 rocks of Pepsi before returning home. That sounds like a lot. Approximately 3 hours later, the victim returned to the house where several people had congregated and encountered Porter. After a brief conversation, the defendant asked the victim if she would accompany him to his brother's apartment in DeGaulle Manor, a nearby apartment complex, to get $20. The victim admitted that she believed the defendant was going to get a rock, or possibly that he was going to get the money with the intent of paying for intercourse. ML walked with the defendant to the DeGaulle Manor. They took I wonder if it's named after Charles de Gaulle. I know that there's a big French presence in Louisiana. I bet you it is. Anyways, they took the elevator to the 5th floor and exited. Defendant told the victim that they were going to go smoke, but ML told the porter that she did not want to. Why would she not want to? She explained that she had never smoked outside and knew that the complex had a security guard. Oh, okay. Porter began pulling her arm. ML testified that she was afraid, but went with the defendant anyway. Porter began smoking from a pipe and offered some to the victim. She testified that she took the pipe, but only pretended to smoke from it. She stated, "I was scared and nervous. He was making me nervous when he kind of jacked me and brought me to the back of the get-go. My mind wasn't on smoking, I just kept saying, when you going to get the $20, let's go buy your brother." At this point, the defendant began to request for sex from the victim. He stated to her, "Well, yeah, what you going to do for me? I gave you my stuff." ML refused to go with the defendant's request, but he continued with his demand to perform oral or to engage in intercourse. Porter then took a knife from his pocket and told the victim that she was going to do as he asked. The victim continued to refuse his demands. She then tried to convince him that someone was coming when she saw the elevator light come on, and he put the knife back in his pocket. Porter walked over to the elevator and saw that no one was there. He came back, pulled the knife out, and continued his demands. Again, the victim told Porter that someone was coming. Thinking that this was her opportunity to escape, as Porter walked to the elevator, ML followed, but Porter told her to get back there and to take her clothes off. Porter approached her with the knife in his right hand, and the two struggled. The knife fell to the ground, and Porter recovered it. The victim was on the ground, scooting back as Porter made stabbing motions towards her. Can you imagine this? The victim said that she was scared and crying. Porter reiterated his demands for Emil to take her clothes off. The victim testified that she thought the defendant was going to sexually assault and kill her. Porter became increasingly agitated and threatened to throw the victim over the balcony if she continued to refuse him. The victim offered to go get $20 from a friend or to give Porter her jewelry. Porter continued to demand that the victim remove her clothes and threatened her with a knife. The victim unbuttoned her clothing so that her brassiere was exposed, but she held onto her clothes, telling Porter that she was not going to take them off. Porter stated, "I'm not going to tell you effing ass no more. Ho, take them effing clothes off." It's interesting when they censor these documents. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. I'm always curious about that as to why they do and don't. Maybe it just depends on who the author is. Once again, the victim told Porter that the elevator was coming. She testified that she realized this was her last chance and ran, losing her shoes, but Porter grabbed her by the shoulder and stated, "I told you, I'm tired of y'all hoes. I'm going to kill y'all. Come here." He then stabbed her in the neck with the knife. Oh my God. Whew. I mean, they really go into this graphically. He then stabbed her in the neck with the knife and wiped it off. The victim watched as Porter walked down to the first floor. Once he reached the first floor, he started running. The victim knocked on all the doors, but no one responded. She went down to the fourth floor where a girl with a baby came out. The victim asked the girl to please help her, to call the police, and told her that the man tried to sexually assault and kill her. The girl gave her towels for the blood. I mean, he literally stabbed her in the neck. The police arrived first, and after the ambulance arrived, she was put on a stretcher and taken to the Charity Hospital. The victim also explained that in 1998, she admitted herself to Charity Hospital because she was hearing voices. She explained that she suffered from schizophrenia. You know, talking about schizophrenia, we'll play an episode, a hearing after this one, that also has something to do with that. The victim admitted that she had begun taking the devil's lettuce and Pepsi for 10 or 15 years, and that she had smoked a rock of Pepsi 3 days prior to the trial. Dr. Richard, who admitted by stipulations as an expert in forensic psychiatry, testified that he had reviewed the victim's medical records from the incident in question, as well as records from July 1998 pertaining to psychiatric treatment received by the victim in an effort to understand what kind of psychiatric problems she might have. When he stated that he had spoken to the state of the defense about the case, Dr. Richaud testified that the July 1998 records clearly indicated that the Charity Hospital psychiatric personnel viewed the victim as suffering from schizophrenia and having a history of substance abuse. The doctor stated that he could not find any records of any observed mental status, abnormal or abnormalities. You know, whenever they have any expert witness come on the defense or the prosecution, I think it's the biggest joke, like 90% of the time, only because they're always going to say what the prosecution or the defense wants them to say. They can each bring their own 5, especially when it comes to anything medical. They can bring 5 expert medical doctors, and you could have 5 different opinions. It's a pet peeve. I get that they do this for the jury, but I think the whole thing is ridiculous. And unless they can be completely independent, I mean, it's a hoax, in my opinion. In May 1998, the admission reflects that the victim heard voices that told her to kill her husband and to cut herself and bleed. Wow. I mean, it is pretty incredible. You know, if you're talking about trying to discredit a witness, they seem to have the perfect formula right here. The perfect formula. Someone who actually heard voices about cutting herself with medical illnesses and and she's accusing him of cutting him, and he would state that he didn't. I mean, I'm actually surprised the jury found him guilty with this. The victim also related that she experienced visual hallucinations such as seeing people in trees, which would be an uncommon symptom of schizophrenia, more likely related to substance abuse. Really? The doctor acknowledged that a drug user might have hallucinations of a six-headed monster and think is reality, but when not intoxicated and asked about the experience, the user would know the six-headed monster was a figment of the user's imagination. He further stated that most people do not experience visual hallucinations while they are under the influence of Pepsi, but when they do hallucinate, the hallucinations is of bizarre quality like a monster. Hold on a second. Okay, sorry, I'm back. But yeah, we're almost done. Only a couple more pages of this, and then we'll go to that hearing that I was talking about. Rather than hallucinations of an ordinary human being, the best opinion the doctor could form was that the victim was suffering from a combination of symptoms. Finally, the doctor stated that he was in no position to tell whether the victim was telling the truth or was purposely lying, and that he did not think what the victim told him about the incident was based on a distortion of reality or psychosis symptoms. At trial, Officer Melissa Gregson testified that when she arrived at the scene, the victim, who was crying hysterically and covered in blood, the victim's wound was extremely deep. Gregson radioed to have EMS hurry up. Gregson attempted to speak to the victim, but she was hysterical and kept repeating, "He tried to kill me. He tried to sexually assault me." After the victim was transported to the hospital, Officer Gregson spoke to the woman who had responded to the victim's cries for help and was able to determine that the attack occurred on the 5th floor. Gregson went to the area located in the victim's shoes and earrings. Dr. Paul Dabrowski testified that on May 24, 1997, he was employed as a leader of the emergency surgical team assigned to Charity Hospital. The doctor testified that pursuant to a stipulation as an expert in the field of trauma surgery, after examining the victim, doctor decided the surgery was needed to determine whether any of the major blood vessels in the area, such as the carotid artery or jugular vein, had been affected. I wonder if that's just is that true? Like, you would think if those arteries or jugular vein had been affected, she'd be dead, way before she made it to the emergency room. But hey, again, looking for comments from nurses down there. I guess affected could be a vague term. As injured to each can result in massive blood loss. Yeah, exactly, doctor. Thank you. Dr. Dabrowski also related to an injury to either the esophagus or trachea, which are located near the wound, could prove fatal as well. Thank you, doctor. Determined that he would not, that the wound did not injure any major blood vessels or organs of the victim's neck. The wound was located approximately 1 inch from the jugular vein. Wow, she was that close. I mean, if you get stabbed in the neck, it's always going to be that close, isn't it? Dr. Dabrowski referred to the victim's medical records for indications of her mental status at the time and testified that she was noted to be alert and responsive to commands. The doctor believed that if she had been overtly psychotic, this would have been documented as possibly combative, anxious, or something other than cooperative. Again, it's all like doctor testified that routine drug screening reflected the presence of Pepsi and the devil's lettuce. Detective Donald Nides testified that as of June 2nd, the victim contacted him and informed him of the perpetrator was possibly named Mike and lived at a certain address. The next day, Nides and the victim proceeded to the location. Several men were outside the residence. The victim observed the defendant and explained, "That's him. That's him." Nides arrested the defendant and recovered a knife from his pocket. The victim testified that the knife looked like the knife used to attack her. And this was his second offense. I don't have records of his first offense, nor do they mention in here. I guess you couldn't legally hold that offense against him. Thereafter, Porter consented to give a typed statement, which Knives read to the jury. In the typed statement, Porter admitted that he was called Mike by some people. He further elaborated that he planned to have oral sex with the victim in exchange for buying her Pepsi. In the statement, Porter related that while in a breezeway of the second building, the two men had handkerchiefs across their faces, attacked them. They took his wallet containing $60 and broke free and ran. Porter did not report the incident to police, nor did he return to check on the victim. Porter then went home. Angela testified that she lived at the third floor, her apartment, and when she observed a woman coming down from the fourth floor. So this was the witness. The woman stated that the man tried. Okay. Then, so that just goes to the events. We're not going to go through all of this, although it is interesting. But the problem is I always struggle about how much time I spend reading these things. Like this entire case was like 5 minutes, and now I'm doing 15 minutes of reading. But I'll put this link in the description, as sometimes I forget. I'll make sure I do that. And we'll jump to the next hearing, which is also involving schizophrenia. It's quite interesting. Very different kind of case, but also involving that mental illness. But as they see the conclusion, for the foregoing reasons, defendant's convictions were affirmed. But I mean, if you would say anyone for these type of crimes had a defense that might have worked, I would say it was him. I mean, when you attack a woman that has suffering from schizophrenia, has mental illness, and has been known to tell doctors that she has voices telling her to kill her husband and cut herself in the neck, and then she's cut in the neck, it's you would think that that's the best chance he had, and the jury did not believe him. Let's move to the next hearing. Thank you, Richard, for the info. No, neither do I believe him either, but yeah.
How old are you, Mr. Robinson? Robert?
I'm 25 years old.
Okay, and how long have you served in jail on this offense?
I've served about roughly over 2 years. Roughly over 2 years. Yes, sir.
All right, what is your education level?
I received my high set or my GED, as some will call it, while incarcerated, and I've also been to Delta Community College since being incarcerated and received welding certifications.
Okay. Good. Mr. Robinson, yeah, and this concerns me very much. I mean, you were given several chances. You got sentenced, the judge told you to go to probation and parole and register and get signed up at the sheriff's office, and you didn't. So they brought you to jail on 3/12/20. And the judge once again ordered you to go to probation and parole and also register, that he released you on electronic monitoring. But well, for probation and parole, put you on electronic monitoring, and you didn't. So they arrested you again, and the judge released you on the same conditions. And once again, you didn't show up and got arrested again and got revoked. How can I have any confidence that you're going to show up this time and you're going to register and do the things that you need to do?
Honestly, I don't. If you just want the honest truth, sir, I don't know what actually is on your file, but I never received an electronic monitor. And when I received the probation plea in January 29th of 19, my probation and parole officer made it very clear that she did not like sex offenders out the gate. She told me that she referred to all sex. She said that all sex offenders were the same, that all of us were child molesting predators in my face, and told me that she didn't like any of my addresses. So that's why she sent me back to jail. Each time that she took me back to jail, I would be there with factual evidence in court showing that I had addresses that she just didn't like. And so when the second time after her arresting me, I'm not gonna even lie to you, I just really felt like there's no hope for me at all. beating this lady in court and staying out of jail. It was hindering me, my kids, and my mother who's disabled. She has multiple sclerosis. And so that wasn't fair to anybody. I'm not saying that I deserve anything better, sir, but I feel like nobody deserves that. And to be honest with you, I have a residency plan. I've already purchased my the trailer that I have. I paid $675 for my trailer. It's already, my residency plan is already sealed and it's approved by probation and parole already. I have a residency plan now and so I went ahead and I took the liberty of getting it approved by probation and parole ahead of time. So this time there won't be any accidents.
Why didn't you go to the sheriff's office? What stopped you from going there?
I did report to the sheriff's office and I did sign up for the actual registration for the sex offense. I was only missing the fee for I think the fee was $180.50. I paid the $60 one and I paid the $50 one to Deputy Morrison.
Tell me a little bit about the instant offense.
I was on
You know-
Facebook. Oh, you talking about the offense of my charge, right?
Yes, sir.
I was on Facebook and I was contacted by a young lady who appeared visually to be something that she was not. She told me that she was 19 years old and I was 21 at the time. So I feel like there wasn't a major age difference in between us. I never sent her any pictures, but I did have textual conversations where we referred to sex and different sexual acts in the process. My charges ended up being dropped in December of 2018, and the state of Louisiana picked them back up in January of 19.
Okay, but didn't you have sex with this victim?
No, sir. I never had sexual contact with her.
So the
No.
victim, she states that y'all went into a shed outside of grandmother's residence and y'all had sex.
Yes, sir. That was never part of my of the statement that I made in court before Judge Jefferson. It was only textual between us.
Okay, well, what about her 15-year-old cousin? Did you go back to that house and try to talk with her 15-year-old cousin?
No, sir. I never had any more conversations with them after I told the grandmother that what happened between us and that I didn't know. She referred to me and told me never to contact her again, and I never contacted her again. That was the
So
end
you
of our
didn't go
conversation.
back to the house and get in a fight with the grandson?
No, sir. The grandson fought me in a totally different area and a totally different side of town. He thought that I had sex with his sister, and because of that, he fought me. And when he found me on another. That happened on what you refer to as the south side, and we had to fight on the east. I respected the grandmother's wishes. When she told me how old her granddaughter was, I never referred to them again.
So, I mean, a condom was found, or panties were found by the grandmother, but you're claiming that the girl lied, but had sex with her.
The DNA results came back that it was negative. It wasn't mine, sir. That was all found in court. That was part of them dropping the carnal knowledge of a juvenile and just placing me strictly on indecent behavior with a juvenile.
And the indecent behavior was the text messages between you and her and talking about her genitals and things like that.
Yes, sir. That's what precisely.
I see you've taken a couple classes since you've been in. Do they offer sex offender treatment where you're at right now?
No, sir, they do not. I was taking some Miss Amanda Peoples was my probation and parole officer. When I was released the first time, she referred me to the sex offender treatment that you get on Saturdays. You take every Saturday. And I received a few of the classes that was in between the time of her locking me up as well, though. So I didn't receive very many of them, but I was attending them when I was out there in the world.
What classes have you taken since you've been locked up?
I've
Got
taken
your
anger.
feet good,
Yes,
but
sir.
what else?
I received my GED. I received like I've also said the welding certifications from Delta Community College. I've received anger management through and all else was at OCC, but they don't tend to give too many classes to sex offenders because they say I cannot receive the good time, so they said I'm not eligible for it. I had to talk to the warden just to get the anger management class that I got.
Mr. Robertson, while you out, did you have a mental health evaluation?
I've been to numerous mental health and psychiatric facilities. I have schizoaffective disorder with bipolar tendencies.
Yeah, and you are receiving treatment with Ms. Haynes.
Yes,
You know
ma'am.
Ms. Haynes,
Yes, sir.
and she states that you quit showing up, but you still would call her when you had problems. Is that true?
Yeah, I was trying to wing myself off of my medication so that I could work because the medication keeps me so docile or so under the weather that I couldn't really just work and be at full capacity. So I tried to slowly wing myself off of it, but I would still call her for my counseling sessions and my therapy sessions.
Did she try to talk you into turning yourself in?
Yes, sir, and I eventually did. When I first turned myself in on September the 4th of 2018, I turned myself in. She asked me to firsthand, and I was like, at first I didn't want to, and she talked me into it. I was like, well, I didn't do anything. I felt at the time that I didn't do anything wrong, which right now I feel a totally different way, sir.
How do you feel right now?
I feel as if I did something so wrong and so sick. I really wish that I could take it all back. And I know that even though I can't, every day that weighs on me in here, it's one of the most embarrassing, utterly disgusting and despicable things I've ever done in my life. Having to tell my mom and my children what I've done with myself and why I'm in jail is probably the hardest thing I've ever had to do in my entire life.
How many children do you have?
6.
6?
Yes, sir.
Do you have any contact with your children?
I have contact with all of them.
Okay, so you've had contact since you've been in jail?
Yes, sir. I talk to my oldest daughter, who's 11, weekly.
You got opposition from the DA and the sheriff and all law enforcement. Your family's unopposed. Your mother's unopposed, but she said that you can't live with her.
Yes, sir. That's true because
Got
she
a
stays.
trailer.
Yeah, I have a trailer of my own now. I just bought a week and a half ago. So I just didn't want to buy. I didn't want to buy it too far away from the date because I didn't know how if released how I would need to pay my rent on that.
Okay, what about a job plan? You got a job plan?
Yes, sir. With the welding certification, before I was incarcerated, I was working at Rogers Manufacturing Corporation, and after being released, if being released, then I've already talked to Southern Steel in Monroe, Louisiana, and they've already approved for me to start working week prior to being released.
Have you had any disciplinary write-ups since you've been in?
I had one fight when I want to say probably 6 months after being locked up, but that was well over a year ago.
And that's the only disciplinary problem you've had was that one fight?
Yes, sir.
That's all the questions I have, Mr. President.
Thank you. Mr. Robinson, you were revoked on March 12, 2020, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And when did you have the fight?
Sir,
When did you get the disciplinary write-up?
I believe it was in I want to say November or no, yeah, around, yeah, November, October of 2020.
And you said you have 6 children.
Yes, sir.
How many mothers involved in that?
How many mothers? I would be 5 of them.
5 different mothers.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And you're 25 years old.
Yes, sir.
List the programs that you completed since you were incarcerated in March of 2020.
Since March of 2020 would be HOSET, welding through Delta Community College, and anger management, understanding anger, angry and upset.
Angry feelings. Understanding angry feelings.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'm sorry. I was trying to get it all up. Thank you.
Okay. Now, is that the only good time class you're taking?
Yes, since being incarcerated, yes, sir. That's all I was able to receive at the last jail. They refused to put me in anything else.
And you haven't taken re-entry?
No, I've applied for I've applied for as much as I can. I've applied for re-entry. I was sending request letters when I was at the last jail for re-entry. I've signed in for the Angola program. I've signed in for the Steve Orr program since being incarcerated, but I've never received an actual reply back. So
why did you apply to the Steve Hall program?
You said, why did I?
Yeah, is that the sex offender treatment or the substance abuse treatment?
I was just willing to, I wanted to take the program strictly to better myself. I wasn't sure whether it was the sex offense part. I wasn't even really sure about the circumstances, but I heard that it was a good program. And as far as I'm concerned, anything that was considered to better myself while being incarcerated and making myself better while being here, I was trying to do.
Okay, now, have you ever had a alcohol or drug problem?
I have had a drug problem in the past. I was sober 3 years before I came to jail. The last time I used was in July of 17.
And what was your drug of choice?
Cocaine.
And you just went cold turkey on cocaine?
I went to rehab. I went to rehabilitation at Pecan Haven in Monroe, Louisiana. And I did the treatment for the 27-day program, and then I did my insurance cover for the extra 7 days.
Good. Ms. Jackson has some questions. Please answer Ms. Jackson's question.
All right, how many times have you been hospitalized for mental health issues?
I'm unable to answer that question, ma'am. It's a lot. Some facilities in Louisiana I'm no longer allowed to go to. They said I was untreatable.
When was the last time you were hospitalized for mental health issues?
I don't want to lie to you about that. I believe it was in 2018.
And what were the circumstances that led to your being hospitalized?
I have auditory hallucinations, and sometimes they tend to get the better of me. And
what happened? Obviously, something had to have happened to precipitate your being placed in a facility. So how did your mental illness manifest itself in a way that led you to be hospitalized?
I was under a great deal of stress dealing with one of my children being sick, and I started to have a flare up with my hallucinations, and they wanted me to. I felt like, well, this is gonna sound crazy, but how
did anybody know that you were having a flare up of your hallucinations? Usually there's some outward manifestations, some outward actions on your part that lead people to believe that you need to be hospitalized. So what did you do to cause you to be hospitalized?
What did can you repeat the question, Mel?
You said you were under stress because of the illness of a daughter. What did you do to have someone have you hospitalized? What
I immediately contacted Miss Hayes and let her know what was going on and let her, of course, I was a little manic in the situation.
What's your name, Mr. I'm sorry. I've been doing this for a long time. I've been a judge for 28 years, and I've dealt with a lot of people who suffer from mental illness. And I can tell you, the people who are in a state of hallucination or psychosis do not turn. They don't have the recognition of their own condition. I've never heard of anybody who's in the middle of having auditory hallucinations go and tell somebody, I need to be hospitalized. Usually the person acts out in some way that causes other people to be aware and be concerned and seek intervention.
Yes, ma'am. What
you did to get yourself in the hospital?
Ma'am, I can't, you kind of breaking up.
I said, what did you do to cause you to be hospitalized? You did something.
I tried to stab myself in the neck.
Okay, well, that's the outward action. One just what's going on in your brain. Now, you told us that you have six children.
Yes, ma'am.
The oldest child is 11.
Yes, ma'am.
So you told us you had a baby when you were age 14?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, how old are the other children?
The second two are 6 and 6. I have a 3-year-old, a 2-year-old, and a 1-year-old.
And you talked about all of the vocational certifications. Do you have, did you submit any documentation of those in the packet?
Yes, I don't have it with me. I didn't know that I would need it. They have it in my property.
Submit it with your, a lot of times people submit things that they want the parole board to consider. And I'm asking you, would you submit any proof of any of the certifications or the classes that you told us about?
I can if given the.
I say, could you? I said, did you?
Oh, no, ma'am.
Can I speak with the staff at the facility?
Yes, ma'am.
Is there anyone who review his record and tell us what programs or certifications you have in record?
Like that, would you have the hearing classification?
You don't have a copy.
Okay, stand by. I'll go across the hall to the program director's office.
Okay.
You don't have it. You're in Washington, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and all your stuff is in your pocket.
Yeah, my certificates are in my property.
Well,
Huh?
Mr. Cooper, well, he might be able to pull it up.
Yeah, they're in the back building.
Thank you for that, Mr. Vincent. What medication have you been prescribed for your mental illness?
I've been prescribed Haldol, Synthroid for hypothyroidism, and I take Depakote.
Okay. You were on the street. Were you compliant with your medication?
Not as much as I should have been. I would take the antipsychotics because it would help me with the voices. but I wasn't so compliant as much with the Depakote, which was the mood stabilizer.
And are you currently on medication at the facility?
I traveled during the shipment, I came here with medication and I have not received it since being here.
And how long have you?
I want to say around 2 months.
And are they aware that you have a mental health diagnosis?
Yeah, I've let the nursing staff here know. I let them know upon arrival, and I've let them know while being incarcerated here since being here, and they have not received. They have not, in the slightest, tried to give me any type of medication. I've wrote sick calls and haven't been put in for the sick list. I came here with medication, like I said, and they all of a sudden just randomly came up missing with it. So.
Mr. If you don't mind, let me just
Oh,
move
yeah,
into that.
yeah.
All right, well, we're gonna wait until we get something from classification, all right?
Yes, ma'am.
Or just mute.
Okay, he was able to pull up the anger management and the high set.
Well, what about welding certification?
That was, if you got that at Delta, we wouldn't be able to pull it up.
Okay. All right, thank you very much.
You're so
Can I
welcome.
ask another question, ma'am? Can I ask
Yes.
another question? I don't want you to leave the room, go get anybody else, but if he came from another institution with a mental health diagnosis and on medication, is there any reason why he would not continue that medication at the facility where he is right now?
There are certain medications that this facility don't allow them to have, but if he's on a medication that we don't allow them to have, what they usually do would send them to hunts.
Okay, because he's not receiving any mental health medication, Haldol or.
Are they aware?
I put in numerous sick calls since the first day I got here. They tell me that to put in another sick call, I put in another one, and then I go out there for the pill call, and they don't ever report back to me. They don't tell me anything. They just tell me to keep putting in sick calls, that they have a line of people.
You certainly want to make sure his mental health medications continue. He says he hasn't had any in 2 months. So somebody needs to.
Okay, let me call the major in here. Because he would have to take care of that.
All right, that's all I have.
Thank you. Any more questions? Okay, okay.
Hey, are you able to step in the parole hearing?
Mr. Robinson?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
While we wait on the major, would you like to make a brief closing statement?
Make
Yes,
comments on this, right?
I'm so sorry to my victim. I don't know if they're logged on or if they're not, but I'm stating it openly. I'm sorry to my victim for everything I put them through, scarring a young lady and all, even talking about sex. I'm sorry to my family because I was inconsiderate of how they felt and how they would think about me later on. And I'm sorry, I'm thankful for you all. Thank you also, because y'all are giving me the opportunity to at least plead my case to try to give me some freedom.
Instead of telling him.
My kids need me right now, and I mean, I ask you to take that into consideration. More than anything, I just want the chance to be a better person. I know that I probably don't deserve a chance, but I'm asking you to give me a better chance. And if you give me that opportunity, that I promise you'll never see me again. I promise you that. I can guarantee you that I'm taking the proper precautions to do everything I can to make sure I'll never be incarcerated again. This time here has taught me a lot, man. It's taught me about preparing myself. Before I came to jail, I was okay with settling. I was okay with settling for what I had and for what I was doing. And now I actually see myself with a better future. I actually have goals. I have it written down. They just didn't let me bring the pad in here that I have. I have a written list of goals for when I get out of here, and that's something I didn't have before I came to jail. I want to be better, and I know I can be better, regardless of whatever you all's decision is today. I'm going to be better, and I appreciate, like I said, I appreciate you all for giving me the opportunity.
Thank you, sir. I
can't hear you.
All right, did someone else from staff come into the room with any additional information about Mr. Robinson?
The major is here. He's the one who takes care of that with medical. I have him here.
Yes, Major, would you introduce yourself for the record?
I'm Major Tommy Farm. I'm Chief of Security out here at Madison Correctional Center.
Thank you. Ms. Jackson would like to ask you some questions.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir.
Mr. Robinson came to you from another facility. He has a diagnosis of schizophrenia. He says that he was on medication at his prior facility, but since being transferred to your facility, he's not been seen by anyone in the mental health department, nor has he had any medication for the last 2 months. And I was wondering if there was anything that could be done to make sure he is maintained on his medication.
Yes, ma'am. Normally on intakes, medical get with the offender that come in, new intake, and if they was taking medicine from any other facility, then it will be noted and they will make sure they have it. I got my medical department checking on it now because Ms. Klein just called me, asking me about his medication. He just got here a month and a half ago, almost 2 months, February 15th of this year. He just got here, so I just need to give my medical department to see that a medical summary come down with him having mental health and taking any type of medication.
Okay. Well,
But going forward, I'm sorry, ma'am, go ahead.
Thank you very much, but if he doesn't stay up to date on his medicine, he will, deteriorate, be a problem for him and it may be a problem for you guys. So if you could make sure he is maintained on his medication.
Yes, ma'am, I will.
All right, thank you so much.
The major, he stated, and he came to you with the medication.
Okay. Well, I will follow up on that, sir, and, see what's what, and, if we don't have it if we don't have it, then I get in contact with the agency that sent him to us. But I'll make sure he get back on his meds.
We appreciate that.
Yes, sir.
Is the panel ready to vote?
Yes, sir.
Mr.
That's my case.
Mr. Freeman?
That's my case.
Yeah.
Mr. Robertson, I think you tried to be as honest as you could with us today, which we appreciate. I do feel you need to get back on your medication. Hopefully take some more classes. But at this time, I vote to deny, due to your supervision history in the past. And that's my vote today.
Ms. Jackson?
Mr. Robinson, it's obvious that you're a very intelligent young man. And you probably have a lot of potential that I would like to see you fulfill. But today is not the day. I think you need some additional programming. I do have some concerns about your mental health issues. I am concerned about your transition plan. And you do have poor supervision history. For those reasons, my vote today would be to deny your request for release at this time, but I'd like to encourage you to keep working hard, keep getting into the programs you can get into. You really need to be in sex offender treatment. And I want to make sure you're stabilized on your medication. So good luck to you. Keep your head up, keep working hard, and your time will come.
Thank you, Ms. Jackson. Mr. Robinson, you have received 2 votes to deny your request. You have victim opposition, you have law enforcement opposition, you need additional programming, you have a poor supervision history, and a moderate risk assessment score. For all these reasons, I agree. I agree with my colleagues, and my vote is to deny. You have received 3 votes to deny your request. Your request for early release has been denied. You have a good day.
Sir, is there any way I can speak one last time?
Sir, well, the hearing is concluded. Our business at Madison is complete, and we're going to stand adjourned at 1:10 p.m. Madison, have a good day.
This was a roller coaster hearing for me. My emotions were swinging on the pendulum from right to left, back to left, then to right. Then at first it was like, okay, let's go on this ride. Let's go down the classic, sex offender, predator thing. Oh, I was on Facebook. I thought she was older. And, Mr. Freeman, actually, he did he's not my favorite interviewer, far from it. He's low, but he did a pretty good job at retaining the information and dripping it out as the interview went on, catching him in lie after lie after lie, which is part of why I was confused when Mr. Freeman said, "I thought you were being honest." It could be that he was being honest at some times, but I felt I'm torn between how manipulative he was being, because I do think he is smart. I do think that they're right. And how manipulative he was being and how honest it was. And maybe it was a mixture of both. But it's like, I don't believe him for 1 second that he didn't have sexual intercourse with the girl. I believe that they had him plead out to other charges like they always do. You know, they do that all day long. So, you know, it was from carnal knowledge to and they dropped it to indecent behavior with the juvenile, but they do that all the time. That's like that's what the DA does. So it doesn't mean, you know, bringing up DNA and stuff. I have a hard time believing they ran DNA. I just but again, this is just my opinion. But in that sense, I don't believe his story. And then all, you know, if you remember when Miss Jackson must have asked him 3 or 4 times what it was that landed him in the hospital. And maybe he didn't understand her question, but I also thought he was trying to avoid it. Eventually he's like, yeah, I you know, stabbing myself. But it took a long time to get that answer out of him. Then you find out he had a baby when he was 14 years old. At 25, 6 babies, and it's just the whole thing's a disaster. And now I do believe that his mental illness is 100% real. That I believe without a doubt. I mean, can you imagine when he says that you know, the facilities don't even accept him anymore because he's not curable? And I don't know, you know. And what's scary, and you hear this often, is he's like, I tried to wean myself off the medication so I could work. And hey, man, I've seen what people look like on this medication. It can make you almost like a zombie. But then when you get off of it, he finds himself in a hospital or in prison. So it's really is a scary thing. And I think that, you know, a good job to the board and Miss Jackson kind of smelling it out and seeing it through and not rushing through it. But then also trying to find out how truthful he was being. You know, did he actually come with the medication? And the way that I perceived that, when the major came in the room and the major's standing right behind him, he's looking at the screen, and I'm trying to read his face, and he does have a pretty darn good poker face, but and I could be totally wrong, but I thought that he looked nervous. And also, like, I thought he looked relieved when the woman CO said, oh, we don't have his records for claiming that he has a welding certificate. But again, I'm just looking into things. Who knows? Now, it was the only information that we really have on this that Richard was able to find was the, I'll share right here. This is in 2019. Authorities, man wanted on 3 counts of failure to register for indecent behavior with the juvenile. So, you know, he was just refusing to register, not registering. They held a no bond warrant for his arrest. And, you know, he obviously then he got back locked up. I don't have the information actually that I do have on him shows that he is not in prison anymore. That he is out. So, I mean, I guess they've worked it out. He's out, and we haven't heard from him since he's been out, although I'm not clear when he got out. But that's certainly great that we haven't heard from him. I'm trying, you know, I'm at quite a loss of what I think clearly the whole beginning story was complete fabrication. I don't trust a word that he said. I think probably every time he said, to be honest, he lied afterwards. And every time he didn't start with a, to be honest, maybe he was being honest. But, you know, it is a serious mental illness that he has. And I guess, you know, that is. And even when your mother won't take you home with you, and you know, things are bad. It gets real bad. I mean, I probably lose my mind too if I had 6 kids by the age of 25, the first kid by 14. But it's, you know, that probably wasn't the proper thing to say. He has a mental illness. It's not. Anyways, I'd love to hear your thoughts on how much. I know a lot of you have a lot of experience, are nurses, have much more meaningful insight than my blabbering that I would like to see in the comment section and in the chat. Yeah, but with that, I'll let you go.